Hey there, everybody. Welcome from wherever you are. It is in the afternoon here for me, but I hear it is 8 o'clock in the evening UK time. So, good evening, everybody. So, I am here. This is my show, Rachel and Friends. And on this particular show, I have guests. So, tonight, I actually have a guest by the I've had on before. His name is Joey Madia, and I hope I pronounced his name right. Madia. I'm not too Madia. Okay, all right, Madia. Okay, but we're going to be talking about all things paranormal. We're talking about rabbit holes, interdimensionals, men in black, reptilians, the ocean within the ocean, Antarctica a little bit, anything you can think of. And if you have questions, bring it because we want this to be as interactive as possible. So, hey, also share this out. Share. Okay. There is programming on SPTV like no tomorrow, and there are all types of events that go on for VIPs as well. And so, if you're interested in what the schedule looks like, who's going to be on when, please visit sptv.uk. Okay. And by doing that, go to the schedule, see all the different presenters, who's going to be on, what time, what the topic is. We have mediumship, we have spiritualist service, we have all kinds of things. And if you want to become a VIP member, that means that you get included in special Zoom events like that VIP show, which is on the screen right now, which is going to be hypnotherapy taster. What does that mean? It's just going to be a little dip your toe in the water of hypnotherapy. So that is definitely something that you don't want to miss. And that is on the 13th of July. It's going to be a little too early for me here in the States, in Ohio. But for all of you guys over there in the UK and wherever else you are, it's something that is worthwhile. So, who do we have here today to say hello to, Richard? Oh, sure. So let's go ahead and bring Joey in. So, Joey, come on in.
Here I am. I'm ready to go.
All right, so this is Joey, everybody, and you may or may not remember him. And if you are new to Joey, Joey is a paranormal investigator. He is an author, he is an actor, he's a ghostwriter, meaning that he writes books for other people who don't necessarily want to write their own book. He knows a lot about a lot, okay? So that's why he's here. And also today, just for a special situation, because he's on here, we're going to be giving away one of his books randomly, okay? And that is the book that we're going to be giving away, Roommates from Beyond. It was written by him and his wife, Tanya Madia, who she is also a psychic medium, and I have worked with her before in different various shops and things of that nature. And that's how I met Joey. So let's see, who do we have here? Cheyenne. Hi, Cheyenne.
Hello.
Welcome from YouTube. Hi.
Love the
I love the
butterfly.
butterfly. Hey, I just said that. All right. Hey, Terry.
Hi,
Hey,
Terry.
Terry.
Hi,
Serena.
Sir.
Hi. Rain Cloud. Love the name. Hey. Mhm. Jackie. Hey, it's been a while. Been a while, lady. Hey, Stace. Hi.
Hello, Stace.
All
Some
right.
familiar faces, I think, from last time. Hello, Helen.
Yeah. Hi, Helen. From Wilshire. Okay. Stasia. Hi. Christine Davis. Hey, you. Soma. Hello to you. Morning Star. Thanks for stopping by.
Terrific names.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jody. South Wales. Okay.
Nice.
Meredith. In Ohio. I am Mahoning County, Ohio. And what county are you in, Joey?
I'm in Trumbull, so we're about 35 minutes apart.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Debbie. How you doing? She's on. Debbie is going to be on tomorrow with her show Transcend at 6 p.m. UK time. Okay. And Alice, hi.
Hi, Alice.
Scotland.
Scotland, wonderful Scotland.
You still my heart. Don't do it, Joey. They'll come after you. Don't do the accent unless you.
No, you know, I had a boat of people from the UK, and I was doing, and I was good. I was good. I'm okay. I'll take my chances.
Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Jane. Hi, Stuart. Please share this out, everybody. Share, share, share. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining. And Rose, what a lovely name. Catherine, thanks for stopping. Sharon, good to see you. Liz.
Hi, Barry, Liz.
Hi, Barry. All right, so where do we even start? I think that last time we jumped down a couple rabbit holes that had to do with spiritualism and things of that nature, like the difference between UK spiritualism versus US spiritualism, because there is a difference, okay? Now, one of the things that has been going off in the news, and because remember, bring your questions, everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So, if you have any questions about anything paranormal, throw it out here, because that's what this particular show tonight is going to be about, okay? Since Joey is on. So, one of the things that we were talking about last time wasn't just spiritualism, but was also something called Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
So, can you please tell people, if they're not familiar with Project Bluebeam, what Project Bluebeam is, Joey?
Yeah, talk about Project Bluebeam probably started about 50 years ago, 40 years ago for sure. A man may have been killed. He may have been suicided for talking about Project Bluebeam, a journalist. The idea of Project Bluebeam is that you could use advanced technology of holograms. Here we are in the age of virtual reality and augmented reality. Augmented reality would be very easy to do this kind of thing, but use a hologram technology to basically stage either one of two things. The second coming of Jesus Christ. And I have a funny feeling that they've sort of abandoned that. Religion is down, especially the younger generations have moved away from it. But the second part, though, is the idea of staging a UFO attack. Now, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to stage a UFO attack? I'm not sure what it's like in the UK. I follow Nick Pope, who used to work for the Ministry of Defense, and he doesn't say too much about this. He sort of stays between the lines. He's somewhat of a company guy.
Nick Pope is on Ancient Aliens a lot, right?
Yes, quite a bit. Yeah, silver-haired gentleman, and glasses. And he apparently headed up the UFO division in the Ministry of Defense. But anyway, back to Bluebeam. In America, the agenda, the message is very much fear. They're out to get us. They're going to destroy us. They shut down our nuclear facilities. Well, hey guys, as a little sideline, if they could shut them down, they could blow them up if they were hostile. So to kind of go, oh, you have these things that you think are toys, these dangerous things that you exploded in the 1940s, and think about it. That's when the modern UFO conversation began around the time of the Trinity test. Because when we set up that nuclear signature, I think that advanced civilizations went, oh no, what has gone on?
Let me interrupt for a second, Joey.
Please.
I actually heard that all of the UFO sightings and everything that happened right after Hiroshima and all that went with the atomic bombs, and with Roswell was after that, and all the big things were after that, is because it actually created a dimensional rift. The explosions created a dimensional rift, and there was damage in different dimensions. Now, how do you feel about that?
I think that that's a great point. And don't forget, too, that Jack Parsons, who is at the Jet Propulsion Laboratories out in California, who is a
Mm-hmm.
partner of L. Ron Hubbard, right? Dianetics and all of that.
Scientology, L. Ron
Yeah,
Hubbard.
they were devotees of Aleister Crowley and all the rest, and they did some
Oh,
workings, some dark workings that included impregnating a woman, give birth to a child, and supposedly that also contributed. Now, is correlation, confirmation of these kinds of things is a coincidence? We don't know, but I think that was definitely it. Something that powerful would change, would change. Although you know, there were still sightings and there were still visitations, but they
mm-hmm.
changed. They
Yeah.
definitely changed from fireballs and pillars in the sky and very biblical type things to these nuts and bolts,
Mm-hmm.
machines
Mm-hmm.
or these consciousness carrying vehicles. So what would Bluebeam do? Bluebeam would possibly have everyone go. Now, even though the attack would be holographic, would be fake, the damage would be real. Um, I do believe in my research currently, and you did say rabbit hole, so we're just
I
going to
did
go
say
for
rabbit
it.
hole, everybody. Mm.
That we have something called ARVs. These are alien reproduction vehicles. They're
I've
reverse
heard of this.
engineered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes when you see the boomerangs or you see the triangles, you see the cigar or egg shaped, these are alien reproductive vehicles, also used for my labs, military abductions. So someone like me is fishing around in places I shouldn't be fishing around. I think we talked about it last time, Rachel. 2009, Tanya and I had what seems to be an
Yeah.
abduction experience,
Mm-hmm.
an interdimensional.
Before we dive into it, Joey, we have Stace has a question, and she's
Yeah,
asking, "Do you mean like an AI war of the worlds?"
potentially. I don't know how far they would have it go. I don't know if they would show them like there's something called predictive programming. Predictive program is using films and TV to
Mm-hmm.
test messaging to get
Yep.
people ready for stuff. Now, Tanya and I just started watching the show Numbers. I don't know if everyone in the UK is familiar
Oh,
with this
that's old.
show.
That's an older show. I love
Yeah,
that
20
show when it was
years
on.
ago.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. But the third episode is about a biological attack, a viral attack, and we're watching this and we're going, okay, this was 2005. This is point for point the CDC and the tracking,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
using terms that we've all now become so familiar with, point of origin or 0 point or
Mm-hmm.
and using these algorithms are all. So the technology is catching up to allow, I think, the black hats and the blacker hats. I don't want to be too cynical, Rachel, but the way I'm feeling right now, it's not really the white hats versus the black hats, at least in the Washington Beltway. It's the black hats versus the blacker hats.
Yes, that's how I feel too, Joey. Oh my
Okay.
goodness, that's how I feel.
Okay.
And I view. Let me say how I view Project Bluebeam. I view it as 1984
Mm-hmm.
because that is why 1984 got banned. There was a war that wasn't really a war that had everybody working toward the war, right? I mean, working for it, getting all the word out, all of the articles, everything. Where was everything was monitored, even down to chocolate. You had rations. You were only allowed to do certain things. I mean, any type of books. There were no books. There was no happiness. There were no emotions. You were not allowed to feel. And I think that it's also a term called wagging the dog. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what Project Bluebeam for me feels that it's going to be. It's also coming from like a psychic kind of, woo woo kind of place that I come from.
Right.
That I think that is how they're going to attempt it, is to strike fear and be like, they're the enemy, and to try to unify globally the citizens of the earth, you know? That's
Right.
how I feel they're going to try to use Project Bluebeam. Because it
Yeah.
is just literally using that holographic imaging in the sky, but there will be damage to be seen, but it will not be coming from, I do not feel, aliens.
Right.
It will be coming from people here on Earth.
Right. And
So,
and it feels like the time's coming now. Jody's question becomes very important.
yeah.
What would come of that if it happens? I think that there are several things in play now, and this all harbinges on advanced technology. So this whole game that the world governments have allowed these people with their computers and their data mining in their basements is to get people used to the idea of digital currency. If we move to a digital currency system, I think that partnered with that will be a social credit system. So if real money goes away, if we're automating more and more, if there will be less jobs like manufacturing, things like this, or, you go into stores here in the United States now, and there are machines that give you your thing, or you do everything yourself. And we're being trained, I think, sort of like Pavlov's dogs for this. And then, so what do people do? So maybe they get this universal income, which scares, the hell out of capitalists. But what they could do is do a digital currency, which feels to me like scrip. So the banks, of course, again, here in the United States have run up interest rates. My credit cards, I have outstanding credit. Let me just say, my credit cards
You're not the only one.
20%. They're pushing 20%.
No, Joey. Some people, this is a conversation I had with the ladies here in my office. Everybody, this is my new office. So some people were getting credit card offers for 30% interest. APR, 30%. And they were like, that's ridiculous. And yes, that is how things are going right now. But I happen to agree with you about the social credit system, because that's already happening in some countries, which I will not name, that are across the globe. And if you happen to want to go through a turnstile and you have a frown on your face, you are going to get points deducted, or maybe some of the monies that you get for that month will be less than what you would if you were to be smiling and happy and laughing for no apparent reason whatsoever. Right. This is a thing that's actually happening right here, right now, in a different country. So
yeah, and I think the global board is not as clear as, they're our enemy, because this country that we're not talking about, that one of the listeners put up, yes, you're correct about that.
Yes, you are correct, Morningstar.
Owns a lot of real estate in the United States, is very not infiltrated, that's the wrong word, but is very active with funding and personnel in our universities, in the health system, laboratories, all of that kind of stuff. So I think, unfortunately, the clock is ticking, because there's no reason for all this supposed disclosure that's going on now, Rachel.
That's right.
Give whistleblowers a free pass.
Thank you for bringing up disclosure, because that's one of the key words that Dr. Stephen Greer uses.
Yes.
And he is such I was going to say a nasty word there, everybody, excuse me, but he's a tease. To me, he's a tease. I mean, I know that Linda Moulton Howe, who is another aficionado on UFOs and all that, right? She's involved with Dr. Stephen Greer. And if you don't know who Dr. Stephen Greer is, and if you're interested in ufology and all that, look him up. But he always says, up to a point, but everything that there's no actual proof that is ever presented. And I started to go down a rabbit hole for today. And did you know that when he started his little group, the Disclosure Group, right, that it was a Rockefeller and a Rothschild that actually funded it from the very beginning? So you have to question, is this a wag dog kind of a thing in preparation for Project Bluebeam?
Right. I agree. I happen to be reading Greer's autobiography right now. I'm almost through it. And the reason I'm reading it is because he's got a camp, and then there's this other camp that people like Jeremy Corbell is in, and George Knapp has moved over into that camp. That's the Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Washington Insider camp. John Podesta was part of that. John Podesta guy I don't trust at all, for a reason. Off air, we were talking about something. He's one of the motors. He's won a motor. So, but anyway, moving on quickly. So there's these two camps, and Greer sort of has his thing, and he's had some big people come over to his camp. But Richard Dolan was, who I really respect, Richard Dolan, and I always have, and had the honor of having a show that was right next to his on the schedule for a while, a couple years ago. And but Dolan was saying, oh yeah, Greer says that he can levitate. He called in the Phoenix Lights. He psychically communicated with Clinton. He said, I call BS on all of it. And folks, all I can tell you is in the spiritual community, there is some backbiting. There is some, Rachel, everybody's been a victim of it.
Oh, yeah.
But in ufology, these people love to eat each other alive. Someone very, very close to me was at a conference with Linda Moulton Howe. And I respect Linda Moulton Howe. But Linda Moulton Howe yells out across the lobby, you are working for the CIA. I know you're working for the CIA. Woo. Someone planted that. Linda had been gaslighted by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, a guy named Richard Doty. And I think she was susceptible, having been a victim, and she attacked this woman whose credentials are really impeccable. I knew this woman intimately for 15 years and no evidence that she was working with the CIA. I mean, she was writing books in my house. We were in the field together all the time. Okay. But this, so is Greer, do people want us to feel that way about Greer? Greer is I cannot make up my mind about this man. I watch everything. That's
where I'm at. I was kind of playing devil's advocate there.
Yeah. I don't know that we can trust any of them. I don't know that we can trust the Lou Elizondos. Look, my father and my father-in-law were both military intelligence with high levels of clearance. There are things that they still will not talk about. There are things that I've said, hey, look, I'm in the field. Can you give me a tidbit? My dad gave me one thing from when he was in the United States Navy that was a UFO. One little thing that I have in my notebook that he gave to me. So for this Lou Elizondo to break this top secret government advanced technology program and be welcomed back to Washington with open arms is shady. And people should just go, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So something stinks here. So, and they want us going, what's what and what's real and what isn't? Because, Rachel, if Blue Beam happens, and I'm really concerned that it's going to. So I'm putting a lot of time in my own shows and all. I appreciate the airtime here to talk about this. People need to be really skeptical. As this, they are the bad guys. They are enemies. Now, I know you want to talk about reptilians today. As above, so below. As every dimension, so our dimension. You got good guys. You got bad guys. What is really the abduction phenomena? I don't think that it's all staged. And it's certainly not all hallucination. Yeah. I liken it to this. We take our dogs and cats to be spayed and neutered. We love our dogs and cats. We know why we're doing it. It's a moral imperative sometimes to do it. All that dog and cat know, especially when you try to take them back to the vet, is that's Dr. Moreau. That's the place that hurt me. That's the house of pain.
Dr. Moreau.
So now, yeah. And so as you can see, I've thought about this a lot because people are constantly asking me, Joey, how do you rectify good Nordics and all of this good stuff and healing with these abduction scenarios? That's the only thing that I've come to is the reasons. I don't want to say beyond our understanding. Yeah, so we covered a lot there, but there's a lot of branches we can go off depending what you want to do.
Yeah, well, let's start with the different classes of reptilian and how do you think that the reptilians were here the entire time?
Possibly. I will tell you that I subscribe to the Anunnaki theory. That the Anunnaki may have been this version of these reptilians. They came from the sky and they did some stuff to our DNA, whether they were mining gold, whether they created slaves, whatever it was that they were doing, something went on. It could account for the missing link. You have all these ancient peoples talking essentially, and I don't want to sound too much like Giorgio because I don't have the hair for it. But Giorgio Tsoukalos from Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say aliens.
It wasn't aliens, but it was aliens.
Yeah, but and I'm close friends with Reverend Michael Carter, who's on Ancient Aliens at least a couple times this season. A very cool, very credible, very down to earth guy. I'm honored to call him brother, the Reverend. But I think Ancient Aliens, and Tanya and I were on the road last week, and what do? You're in the hotel room, you switch on the TV, and you inevitably land on the Travel Channel or Road Show, whatever. And so we're watching Ancient Aliens, and I really said to Tanya, these people sound foolish. They sound like clowns. It's the way it's been edited. They've been saying the same thing for 20 years now. Richard Childress. And because, not Richard Childress, David Childress. And because people can poke fun at it, people can make fun of it, can make fun of Giorgio's hair. It's not dangerous. You're not taking it seriously. Therefore, it's allowed to be out there. I think if people took it really serious, very, very serious, it would go away. Like, you remember Bill Burns' show, UFO Hunters?
Yes. Yes, I do.
They did an episode on Roswell, and they were gone. They were gone. They were off the air. And Bill Burns was kind of semi-underground for a couple years. He almost lost his magazine and everything. He's since come out because people have a short memory. But they were taken off the air because these were serious people. They were serious scientists. They were serious investigators. So I think Prometheus Entertainment, when you watch Curse of Oak Island, you watch Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, this is an entertainment juggernaut, folks. And they have to make it appear ridiculous to keep the black hats happy. Yeah. So
they have to inflate it. They have to inflate it.
Yeah. So the reptilians,
let's
I think,
go over to Nordics. Lyrians or Lyrians, however you want to pronounce it, the reptilians. I guess there are different classes of reptilians. There are also the mantis, as far as aliens go. And we have a question now. Morningstar says, my parents also experienced the blue light paralysis in Alaska while pregnant with me. It's what got me to research religious symbolism and palmistry. Hey, Morningstar, palmistry, okay. Psychics always have contact with ET, aka extraterrestrials. I do actually believe that personally, Morningstar, about that.
I do too.
Because I have my own experiences with extraterrestrials. And so is my mom, so is my sister, we all do. And as you know, my uncle had his own experience repeatedly. So yeah, that was something that Joey talked about on his show, which is called Into the Outer Realms, which will be on later tonight, actually.
Yes.
Your show is on
7 p.m. our time. Yeah.
So
midnight.
that'll be midnight. That'll be midnight for everybody on SPTV, but it's Into the Outer Realms, and it's on Facebook and YouTube. So you might want to check that out. But so he talks about all this stuff on his show all the time. But as far as the Nordics and the Lyrians, I heard that the reptilians were in a battle with the Lyrians and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, how does someone know this? You got to question. Just like, and I'm going to say it, just like with the moon landing, how did they get the imagery of the actual landing of the moon? Was the camera already there? Who put the camera there? You know what I mean?
Well put. Yeah, and then you have the Van Allen radiation belt, which nobody could be able to get through. Yeah, it's all, when you start pulling these threads, you just get a pile of threads.
There's a ton of rabbit holes, and it's a big ball of threads. It is. It's just pull one and one just pops out somewhere else. It's like, whoa, okay. Like I heard that Stanley Kubrick, one of the last things he confessed before he passed away was that he was the one who filmed the lunar landing, the moon landing, and where it was and everything. And then that was all, but he confessed it because of the movie Eyes Wide Shut. And the studio wanted a half hour of film cut from the final product. And he, in his contract, said that he had authority over it. And so he said, no, you can't do this. Put the contract in front of their face. And well, then within 3 days, he had a heart attack. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in and amongst that time, he confessed that he was the one who filmed the lunar landing and where it was, and etc. What soundstage, everything.
So I've given that a lot of thought too. With Eyes Wide Shut, I think that's another version of what we were talking about pre-air. That was a confession about what was going on, starring a couple people who were intimately connected with it in one way or another, for different reasons. So here I've sort of taken a middle ground with the Kubrick. I think that he did film stuff. There's an interesting story of they were watching it in Australia first because of the way that the satellite feeds all were, and someone reported a Coke bottle like on the moon.
Oh no!
And it was scrubbed. It was scrubbed. NASA is the king of scrubbing, right? You say, oh, look at this, and there's this reflection, and you go out online, and it's all been scrubbed and cleaned up. So I think that that's what went on. I also do think that The Shining, the film The Shining, has a lot of encodement because he had a guilty conscience about what he agreed to do and the way that it was handled. I definitely agree. With all the different races, you hear anything from, we have cataloged about 65 to over 200. And it's a big, vast, wide...
Of alien races, right?
Yeah, yeah. The Pleiadian or Nordic or those, tall light beings. The Greys have become really, where the reptilians or the Draconians, those are the bad guys. Those are the bad guys. Yeah. And mantises, people kind of give mantises a bad rap. They seem to be involved in a lot of the medical experimentation. Like there always seems to be like a mantis there. But Reverend Carter talks very publicly about the fact that he had a very positive experience with a mantis. So... yeah, so did they just vibe? Was it the vibe that he was putting out? And look, human beings, some of us are good, some of us are bad. So even within races, some of us choose the dark path. Some of us are all love and light and spangles and bangles and, but then, Tanya always talks about toxic spirituality. So you also have that. So you have subsets within subsets. So if you encounter a ship full of, EBEs or extraterrestrials or interdimensional travelers, whatever you want to call them, there could be a mixed bag with different agendas and different. That's complicated. We can only take what we're experiencing and go with it.
Now, a lot of what do you believe in all 200, as you said, as an estimate of different aliens or extraterrestrials? Do you believe that they could be based on Earth but in other parallel dimensions all at the same time?
I think some of them. I think the underground bases. I think that both terrestrial and aqua, right? So we have deep. We have what we call DUMBs, which is kind of funny, but deep underground military bases. But we also do have bases under the water. There's some very compelling footage of ships coming up. And I just read an encounter yesterday, I think it might have been in Greer's autobiography, of a submarine that went down to an underground base. I think it could be that. Another thing that people are talking about a lot, and I just saw a clip, the whole time traveler phenomenon. Now, Now here's the thing, and I try to be open to everything, just like all the different. Well, what could it be when a ghost and spirit comes through? Well, it could be lots of different things. I don't know that we're gonna make it. I don't know that we're going to make it 5,000 years from now. I have a really hard time believing that right now where everything is. Also, too, it's weird. Greer just did a big thing about a month ago. And he said they came back and they said to him, you really have to change. Otherwise, we won't have a future. Well, if you're there, then everything changed. So you don't need to come back to tell us to change because it's changing. So you have all these time traveler. Of course, you have these great paradoxes and all. But there was a comment that was up, Rachel, from Morningstar again about different patterns on
Yeah,
her.
I did notice
Yeah.
that about the Eye of Horus and the Solomon ring. Mm-hmm.
What do you
Absolutely.
think?
Well, with that, with the palmistry marks, that goes to past life stuff, and you can actually, if you want to really determine that you are a star seed, according to a lot of my astrologer friends, you can look at your natal chart and figure, and based on how close you are, if you are within 0 to 1 degree of a planet, then you can actually navigate what system your soul as a star seed came from. So I happen to be Palladium. Dun dun dun.
Tanya too. Tanya
I
too.
know, I know, I
Yeah.
know. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm like 0.25 away from Jupiter and all this weird star cluster. You have to look at my natal chart. But if you have a distinct pattern in your chart, that is a very like telltale sign that you are from your soul is originated from another planet. Now, as far as morning stars palmistry marks, now of course that's going to show up. Now, my curiosity is if it is on the non-dominant hand or the dominant hand, being a palm reader. Because if they're showing up on the dominant hand, meaning this current life, then that is information that is there that they came into this world with in this particular life. So they might be an abductee, or, might have been abducted, might have been tinkered with just a little bit by their ancestors to say, hey, they're a fellow Palladian, Morning Stars of Palladian. Let's bring them aboard. Let's give them a little bit of psychic oomph. You never know. But the Ring of Solomon and the Eye of Horus is protection symbol across the board, and the Ring of Solomon just shows how you can kind of see through the veil. You can 100% see through the veil with the Ring of Solomon. So those are all abilities that are starseed, 100% starseed, and 100% psychic related. So when it goes back to psychics and mediums being in touch with ETs, whether they realize it or not, they might say angels, they might say whatever they want to say, but I view it all as extraterrestrial or interdimensional. Personally, that's how I view it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Natalie says, don't they say that us with O negative blood could descend from aliens?
That
Yes.
seems to be a marker. Yeah.
Well, isn't that there's some little place, isn't it Bruges or no, it's not Bruges, in Belgium, it's somewhere else where there's like everybody has the largest population of O negative, and they have their own language, and nobody can figure out how this came about, and like even in their history, they don't really know how it came about. The Basque. Oh, Richard's just saying no, that's Ohio. Oh.
Well, that would explain a lot, though, how Tanya and I wound
Yeah.
up here, and it could be. Um,
But I think it's the Basque people, actually, Joey. I think it's Basque. Yeah, so that's a whole other topic. And then we have the AB negative. I mean, why do all of us, we humans, have these different blood types? Let's think about that. Let's consider that. Not just O negative, AB, B positive. Why is there a positive? Why is there a negative? Let's go down that rabbit hole if you
yeah.
feel like it.
Well, I mean, who knows? It's now I was told, And I think this is a good place to put it. I was told we met with someone, and the person who gave us our start with our podcast almost 3 years ago, and said, "Well, look, Tanya's from Star Stuff. She's a Pleiadian, or Pleiadian is, same as you are. But Joey, you're from here, although your family has some skills, which allowed me to look into that, and I got into Stregheria, Italian, and found out a lot about my great-grandmothers and one of my great-great-grandmothers. So I suppose, yeah, if some of us did sort of get seated here, well, whatever the story is, the Theobua Prophecy is a really interesting book. Michel Demarque, there's a man named Samuel Chung who is tireless in promoting this book, and it says that Earth is like the ninth of like these ninth planets of ascension, and sort of a garbage dump / prison, and it's the lowest vibration, and so, but some people are put here, and I guess maybe some souls start here. So I don't know how much I believe in that any much. I don't have a fixed position on things like soul contracts, reincarnation. Right. I do have memories of past lives, but there's something for the rebel against authority that I am, right? The pirate. I just don't know if it's like, okay, I signed a contract that says for an X amount of decades or whatever, I need to suffer greatly here. And if I, but with your palmistry, you find evidence of past lives. So something is going on, and it's probably all, intertwined. Are we always from that same starseed race when we incarnate, or do we incarnate off planet at times? And, Tanya from the Edgar Casey Institute has a certification in soul contact, and the idea that your soul can be up to, I think, 8 places at once. It can actually fragment and have multiple experiences all at once, which that's mind blowing.
Now, do you subscribe? Well, first off, we have a comment here. Rebecca says that I've been told several times she's an Andromedan. Okay, a 2-spirited Native American told her, and several mediums. That's something that we talked about last time, was a 2-soul or a 2-spirit. First Nation indigenous culture, as we say over here. That is a whole other aspect. They are highly revered, and I applaud that. And also the journey of the shaman, the journey of somebody who is, somebody in regular society would be like, oh, they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? But in indigenous culture, they'll be like, oh, they're becoming a shaman. They are beginning their medicine journey, and they will set them their own little residence. They will feed them. They will do everything, take care of them, because they know this person is receiving information, a quote unquote download, you might say, and is they're getting them ready. The side of spirit is getting them ready for something bigger. And then that person will eventually become that medicine person or that shaman for that First Nation, whether it be North America or South America group of individuals.
Right.
So that's interesting. That's very interesting. But, Joey, I want to talk about something. It's been in the news. Okay, we all know what happened and you have a ship behind you, so it's very interesting. We know what happened when they did that tourist thing to Titanic. Okay, now, do you think that was doomed from the get-go? Not because of man-made stuff, but just because of spirits being down there from all of those lost souls. Your opinion?
No. No. Because Ballard went down and Cameron went down, and the movie was one of the highest grossing. I think, Rachel, when we do what we do, it's all the amount of respect that you do. I think they just announced today, I saw it right before we came on here today, Ocean Quest has shut down all operations. Well done. So what's been very, very interesting is the public response to it. A lot of memes, a lot of jokes, a lot of, well, there's a few
Yeah.
less billionaires in the world. Now, it is interesting when they say more very, very wealthy people have been claimed by the Titanic. That becomes very
Mhm.
interesting. Although it takes a
Mhm.
lot of money to play at the bottom of the ocean.
Mhm.
So it's almost inevitable that you're going to have big, big money people. I'm not going to build any kind of submarine and get down there.
No,
So I
never.
think that I think that it's tragic. I wonder about the people who were on it and if someone was trying to do away with them. I think that's where I have my questions. I
Conspiracy theories.
yeah, which that's a whole nother thing. A conspiracy is simply something done in secret by more than one person, and a theory is just that. So I think that language has been wrongly co-opted. I call them fringe theories. It doesn't, I saw a guy, I think it was on one of the shows on history, and he said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy factist. And I think that's where you get in trouble. Because folks, if you've seen any theme with these couple of hours that Rachel and I have done together on this program so far, we're not stating anything emphatically because we just don't know,
You
and you
don't
have
know.
to
It's the
watch.
gray zone. It's gray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very much the gray zone. So that's my feeling. It was tragic. Why was it allowed to happen? Was it just ego? I don't think we can always chalk everything up to ego. But we do know that it's damn hard to put things deep into the ocean and put things into space because look at what
Yeah.
SpaceX, they constantly have
Yeah.
those things blowing up, crashing,
Mhm.
going woo woo, which Rachel does bring up along the lines of fringe theory. How the heck did we manage to do it, 50, 60 years ago? And maybe we did it. Who knows?
With aluminum foil and popsicle sticks and rubber bands, Joey. That's how we do it.
Yeah, and a Coke bottle on set. So we kind of brought all that around. So I just wanted to say one thing. I think it was Kerry who was talking about when numerous people are telling you the same thing, pay attention to it. It still
Mhm.
doesn't make it hard fact, but when Tanya would show up somewhere and someone would drop what they were doing and go, "Oh, you're a fairy, or you're star stuff, or you're
Yeah.
Pleiadian," they're not saying it to me. No one's ever looked at me. I had one Tibetan monk put his forehead against my forehead during an acting exercise of all things and say, "Oh, Babaji." But no one else has
Oh,
ever said that though before, and he wouldn't
that's so
really talk about it to
fantastic.
me. Yeah, so I think it's the difference between hearing it once and hearing it numerous times. But
Mhm.
um, yeah,
Okay, so yeah, Tara, that was up before. But I actually have another question for you. I'm going to go back just a little twinge. So I don't know if all of you have ever heard of Dolores Cannon or not, but she was a hypnotherapist, and she very much started out just being a therapist, right? And using hypnotherapy with her clients, and then realized that they were drifting back just a little bit further than what she thought they were doing. And so through that, she then devoted her life to past life regression therapy. And all of the information that she wrote several books and did many lectures on. She talked about soul contracts, which I know you don't how you feel about soul contracts. I happen to
I
feel
haven't made
that
up my
way
mind.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, do you prescribe to the idea that we chose to incarnate in this particular plane here and now, which is something that she prescribed to?
I think so. I think so. One of my first spiritual mentors was my Aunt Annette. When she died, I had a really hard time with it. I mean, she was so many things to me. And someone prescribed to me Neil Donald Walsh's book about life after death, Conversations with God in a Life Everlasting. I think that's what it's called.
Mhm.
And in it, it says that everything that happens to you happens through you, therefore it happens for you. That was a one big takeaway where I went, huh. And then the second one said, we choose the time of our own death. We choose the time of our leaving. So we decide when we leave school. And I don't advocate suicide or anything like that, but you know, although we are moving, I think as a culture in some ways can into assisted death at the end of life and all this kind of stuff. I have my own.
If I may, Joey.
Yeah.
Just intersect here because I know you're talking about the S word and everything like that. And let's try to avoid that. But
Right.
I view it more as what you're talking about, choosing the end with the Buddhist monks, the Tibetan Buddhist monks with the rainbow body. How they're like, okay, my work here is done. And so then they go through this whole ritual of basically shutting their body down.
Right.
And then they turn into rainbow light, rainbow system of light. And that has been seen and recorded by people, the actual phenomenon itself. So I think that might be what you might be talking about a little bit, instead of just being like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
Exactly
right. And I apologize, and we have to be careful for a lot of reasons. And we've all that's touched all of our lives. It's not what I'm saying at all. But I know for me, it will be similar to those monks. I know at what point I will no longer, and go on. So I do think that we come here, which is very much like the soul contract. That's why I said it's a moving target for me. But when you put it that way, yes, I think there are certain things. You were kind enough on our show over 2 years ago. You did a palm reading for me live.
Yeah,
and I have
are
things.
You sure?
Yeah, and I have things that I need to do, and I'm a big boy, and there were some health issues that I had to address, and I did. And I mentioned my great grandmothers. One of them showed up, and she was like, "Okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it." And I wore lots of rings for a long time, and I took your prescriptions because I trust you, and you know what you're doing. You're very good at what you're doing. And
thank you, Joey.
And I think it helps. It helps. Now, my father, who's had a very profound life, says that he knows the exact time and circumstances of his death. And he has terrible illnesses. The man stood up to go up a step and snapped the bottom of his foot because of, Agent Orange, from being a Vietnam vet. So he's in a cast right now, stuck away from home for weeks and weeks and weeks while this thing heals and he's with the good surgeons. But anyway, he knows the exact time and circumstances of his death. That kind of clues. Now, I would not want to, but it has allowed him to have a very, very positive, so when the polyneuropathy and the heart problems where he had to have a heart patch, and then this and that, and then the leukemia that you're treating, he kind of goes, it's okay, because I know when my time is coming, and this ain't it, so everybody can chill. So maybe that was a glimpse that he needed to have in order to get through, because he does still have things he needs to do now.
Right.
And pushing 80, just about next year he'll be 80. It would be easy to go because of ageism and things in our society. Come on, man, move over, Grandpa. What could you possibly have
left? Get me started about ageist people and ageism. Oy.
But who knows the lives he's touching and the journey that he's on now, and it gives him a certain comfort. So I do, I wondered. I think there's a pattern for me of maybe not seeing it through. Let me put it that way. It was a knowing that I got. And then based on some other things going, for the past several lifetimes, you've exited the bus before you should have. And I said to Tanya about 3 years ago, it was the dead of winter, and I was down in my basement office, which I've since dismantled, and very subterranean. Everything's very subterranean, kind of dark. And just because you're a writer, you don't to be subterranean and dark. And I said to her, I'm committing to this ride. I'm committing to this ride, to seeing it all the way through. And that's probably what I need to do this time around. And as you let me know,
that's what we all need to do: the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, and be a voice and be a light and that's why there's a lot of eyes that watch me now. In this life, there's a lot of eyes on me. A lot of people know who I am. And maybe that's why. Maybe it's for the simple reason of going, whoa, what would it mean? This guy who's always like, keep your vibration high and, left the trip before the end of the tour. You'd go, oh, well, if he couldn't do it, if he was full of crap, and so the responsibility that, and I think that's why I have children, because they is very clearly they still need Tanya and I, even though they're adults and they're prospering in their own ways. They have challenges in their own ways, and so wow, we did. You promised rabbit hole.
I did.
And I think you delivered.
So, let's go on to a different rabbit hole, which we started by talking about the depths of the Titanic and everything. Now, I don't know if any of you out there have heard, but there is an ocean underneath the ocean. And when that was found by the man that discovered it, I can't remember his name right at this very second, unfortunately. They were in a submersible, obviously, because it's so very, very deep. But they saw ripples. Like their submersible was making ripples on this water, this thing, whatever it was, and it was going against a little shore where there was actual vegetation. And when they tried to go down into it, they couldn't because of the salinity, meaning they had so much salt in it that it just made them bounce right off of it. So what's your take on that, Joey? Because, of course, this man who, after he sent the footage out to the public and everything, he's no longer with us.
Right.
But that's a whole other rabbit hole, which we won't discuss. But
Well, you have that thing up on the screen there, and I don't know about that, but the best thing that people can do is start paying attention to if billionaires start disappearing under weird circumstances. Are they off planet?
Resigning, and they start resigning from their jobs. That's their positions.
Yeah. Or they have weird deaths or unexpected, or they're suddenly just gone, or weird things have happened. Are they off planeting? Are they going to, Mars? Are they going to the moon? Who the heck knows? So, okay. So I guess that's hollow earth theory, plays a little in with that. Hyperborea, right? I don't know. There are very, very odd things that they're finding about the center of the earth. And, when the lunar module crashed into the moon, it rang like a bell, and they think maybe that's hollow. So honestly, who knows? If we're living in a hologram, if we're living in a matrix, if we're living in some kind of simulation, how do you account? And I won't get too far away, but how do you account? And we talked about this last time, Rachel. How do you account for flat Earth? Maybe people are having a genuine experience in their program of
it being flat.
Flat Earth, and we didn't talk about that last time. So I believe, the Mariana Trench is so deep and so mysterious, and attached to all of the anomalies around Antarctica, which I believe is a giant Stargate. And I believe that there's a big alien base on it that's underneath the ground. I think that, there was a reason that a treaty was signed, and there are no fly zones and things you can do
in Antarctica.
Yeah, and a weird story of a rescue team having to go and have these pills in their pocket that are for protection against radiation. So the ocean, these translucent and glow in the dark and transparent. The bottom of the ocean is truly, truly, truly potentially the last frontier. So Ocean Gate is, another theory that I've heard is that it was a warning. It was a warning to keep people away from there and to keep people away from the bottom of the ocean. So, look at this horrible, terrible thing that happened. Because if there are, underground bases or other things, they don't want people mucking around with that stuff. So
that's very true.
Yeah. Yes, Robert Ballard.
Ballard. It was Ballard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think
That's
it
right,
was done.
Kelly.
Yeah, I think it was done with a lot of respect in that time.
Yeah,
You know,
he laid a plaque on it, didn't he? He dropped a plaque
I
and then
believe
just
so.
that was it.
Yeah,
Like a memoriam plaque, and then left it. And then, of course, people are now trying to make money off of the tragedy, and there's a traveling show of artifacts that they've picked up from the bottom of the ocean. I won't even stay in the hotel or anywhere that has this going on. I'm just like, no, I don't want to be anywhere around it. My
right.
father now, he swore that he knew the entire layout of the ship. And he swore that he was one of the musicians that went down with the Titanic. And he was a professional trumpet player. And, when I knew him, obviously, he was a professional trumpet player. And he swears by it. He could stories of where he was, what happened, etc. And to the point of where my mother and my sister and I bought him a book that had a layout of the blueprints of the Titanic, and he would point to where he was and what happened, like firsthand kind of stuff. And it's just that's that past life stuff that you can see on someone's hand, and also through past life regression. And that's neither here nor there. I'm getting off on a branch, on a tangent that I always get off on, but
No,
I apologize, Joey.
I think it's cool. There are whole books about people who claim to have past lives on the Titanic. Our child Josh got very, very hooked into this thing, like relentlessly, and then was
Mhm.
starting to. She's also very psychic, like Tanya, and was tapping in and sort of connecting and had to take a break from it. And Tanya said, I've noticed a pattern. Tanya, probably 15 years ago, we bought every documentary, every book,
Oh
watched
wow.
everything. She was relentlessly fascinated um, by it. I think it is one of those things that are so powerful. It's such a monument to hubris. It addresses race and class and all of those
Mhm.
things that we're struggling with as a society, all encapsulated in the ship. And then, was it the Titanic or was it her twin? As someone brought up recently, I saw in the thing, can an iceberg rip a hole in good tempered steel? Maybe
Mhm.
that shouldn't happen. I kind of subscribe to the theory that they were trying to go too fast, that there was a breach, there was an imperfection, there was a strike among the steelworkers at the time that it was built. Um, and they were running it so hot that caused that breach, and that
That
when it hit the iceberg,
that
the
is
water
what
came.
my father said, was that they were running it too fast.
Yeah,
That was one thing he adamantly said, was that they were running it too fast.
yeah.
And I also want to say that as a present to him, because for years, he would go on about this. In New York City, on the west side of Manhattan, I can't remember the exact street, but it's on the West Side Highway. Um, there was the original White Star Line's gate where the Titanic was supposed to dock. And it said you could still make it out. That's all that was left, was this huge gate entryway. And me, my dad, my mother, we obviously climbed the fence and went onto the pier where the Titanic was supposed to dock. And he took a picture. We took a picture of him holding the sign. You could still see White Star Line. And then somebody had, when Cunard bought White Star Lines, and that was also painted over, and it's almost all gone. And he was just smiling, like, and you just saw this release come off of him, like he had finally made it. It's
Right.
here. I'm here now. You can
That's
see it like
beautiful.
spiritually on him. It
Yeah.
was just fantastic. So that's one of those pictures of my father. Now he's gone. Rest in peace. Love him to death. But yeah, I will always cherish that moment, being able to see that on him, that
Yeah,
big
that's
weight off
powerful.
of his shoulders. Yeah. So yeah, it's still there, everybody. You got to climb a fence, but you may get in
You rebel,
trouble.
you. For dad, it's worth it to climb a fence for dad.
That's right, for your parents. That's right.
Yeah.
It's worth it. So, and also, about your book, Joey. Let's talk about the
Oh,
books that you're going to be giving
okay.
away.
Right. So this is
Roommates from
from
Beyond.
Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Now, notice it is how to live in a haunted home and not a haunted house. And this is this is a handbook that Tanya and I wrote because Rachel, you got these groups that dress up like either biker gangs or rock stars and buy thousands of dollars worth of equipment and get everything is a demon and in our little town in Ohio,
Yeah.
we're about to
Oh, yeah.
expel the third demon this week, and it's like, come on, stop, and Tanya and I were lucky enough to be on Coast to Coast AM, and we got a caller
with
who was like,
George Norrie.
We were on actually with Richard Serrett, who okay, yeah, we were happy to be on with Richard Serrett. Okay, let's move on. Okay,
I hear you loud and clear. Don't worry.
Yeah, so anyway, this caller called up and they were really irate. They said, "How dare you say that probably like 5% of experiences are with like dark entities and 95% tend to be positive? It's the other way around." And we're like, oh no. And like, you've been sucked in by the jinn and the reptilians and, so yeah, it was so horrible. So in this book, we say, hey, we've lived in lots of haunted homes. And it's not so much that we've lived in haunted homes that when you have a psychic medium from the Pleiades and you have a daughter who's also a psychic medium, also probably from the Pleiades, you're going to generate and be aware of a lot of stuff. And really, 95% of everything we've encountered has been positive. Now, we did live in one haunted house. This house had a history where I mentioned my Aunt Annette. She never gave me the details, but she came to the house. She called me 2 hours later. She said, "I will give you the money to get out of the lease, but that entire neighborhood is haunted. Is a dark, dangerous place. Weird stuff happened. Our neighbor was trying to do renovations on their home and they dug into the ground and there were all kinds of delays and flooding and weird stuff. It was just a very, very weird place where we had very dark experiences. But this book says, look, if you have spirits that are contacting you, there are right ways and wrong ways to go about it. You can invite them in. You can cohabitate. There are ways to negotiate peacefully. And we talk about all our spiritual tools that we use. We're very proud of this book. And Rachel, we started something, the first Paranormal Bill of Rights. And
I heard about this.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten around, but it's just for investigating.
Maybe you need to show Zach Baggins that.
Whoa, there you go. If we're on air again together, it'll be a miracle. What names have we not dropped? But it is with people like that in mind. I'll just read a couple and you'll know what I'm talking about. Entities in haunted locations are not specimens or attractions to be examined or disturbed at our whim for our amusement or to satisfy our curiosity. So ZB certainly is at the top of the list of breaking that rule.
Yeah.
I think this is important because then people will really understand what the book is about. We employ the tools of the open-minded skeptic. Now, folks, people use skeptic and cynic interchangeably. I'm a language guy, and I'll tell you there's a vast difference. A cynic, you could show them anything and they will not believe it. A skeptic says, like I say with Soul Contract, not same thing with travelers from other dimensions. Just because it doesn't resonate with me, I'm not telling you, oh no, it can't be humans from the future, because that's arrogance. So, and then just one more. We do not believe it is our right to force entities out of a space without first doing a thorough investigation and giving them an opportunity to communicate and be heard. I can't tell you how the phone rings and people go, I saw a shadow, you have to come and exorcise it.
Well, we just have something from Natasha about that. She says, I did see a black shadow figure. This had to be 2010 at the time. I did think it was a demon because I was raised Christian, but I'm new to all of this, and I'm now realizing I saw an alien. Now, black shadow figures, I always kind of think of them when I'm dealing with black shadow figures as interdimensional kind of blips, like on the radar, like, okay, all right, like that proverbial veil that we all talk about is a little thin right now, so that's what we're seeing. So that's how
Yeah.
I always view it. So it could be aliens, could be just another being, could be a parallel you, could be, think of that, you in another
Yeah.
dimension all at the same time.
I I will tell you this because sometimes, at the end of your golf game, you have to hit a really good shot so that people remember that. And then
Uh-oh.
when you come back, so I will tell you this. No, so Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who people are probably familiar with her name. She authored 65 books, and she was our mentor and friend, and ultimately our publisher, not of this book, but of our first book together, Tanya and I. And she passed away. It's coming on 4 years, and she heavily dove into the jinn, and she paid a price for that. You have to
Oh,
be
did
careful.
she? We'll have to
Yeah,
talk about that outside of here. But yeah.
yeah, a serious one, and that's all I'll say. And so I did a show a couple weeks ago. It was very popular about my favorite 14 of her books, and I closed with her book on the gin. Called her husband, said, "What do you think?" He said, "If you use the book, that's fine. It's not in print anymore. It's part of the negotiations and all." But wouldn't you know, that night the house was a little weird,
Oh,
and two things happened. One, Tanya had a dream, and we were vampires, and we were hunting people. If you know us, not like us at all.
no.
Um, and the second thing was, you'll know a hat person or a shadow person that had it. A hat person peeked over our bedroom door and smiled at her. That's not a blip. That's not an alien. That's a dark entity who's going. Just so you know, your husband was running his mouth about something maybe he shouldn't have. Don't you know, Rachel? Though I've gotten to the habit of staying in close contact with Rosemary's husband. Not only are we close friends, but to compare notes because we're psychically linked through her. I said, "Did you have any weird dreams last night?" He said, "As a matter of fact, I had a dream where I was fattened up and I was being hunted by vampires." That was
Wow.
not that was not a coincidence, and I think the metaphor was, it's a good thing that we're close, because he could have come back and said, "How dare you talk about that stuff, talk about Rosemary's books, and use her name to drive views on your," and he said, "Joey, I would never say that to you." I said, "But the dark entities don't know how close
That's
we are.
right.
They only know, hey, we're the mafia and this is how we roll." And so they planted and they went the extra step, not only to give him the dream, which could have been a metaphor for, "Oh, we've sucked the blood out of you guys for our own
Right.
selfish
Right.
purposes, right, for our own nourishment," but they had Tanya have the dream to know exactly what was going on. Because that's how all the black hats living in interdimensional demonic, that's how they roll. They want to let you know that they know and that they can mess with you. So
Manipulate just a little, and strike fear. That's the biggest thing. Make
yeah,
fear.
and so
Fear.
discontent, so
Mhm.
discord, right? That's the big one. So
Mhm.
Carrie Ann says, "I've seen white figures,
Like
not dark." Well,
figures.
that's good. Your vibration is high. That's good. Good stuff. Keep watching
All
shows
right.
like this.
So, okay. Love says, I've had a magician in this life, but called a cherub when he was haunting my house. I went to the spiritual church open circle and they were told I needed their help and they came to my house. It was Biz. Biz.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Interesting.
That's where showing up, doing your due diligence, not feeding into it. That's what
Right.
Tanya and I learned. You can't feed the fear. You need to calm everyone down,
That's right.
do the work,
Uh,
ask the questions, and see what we reveal. Excuse me,
oh,
mister.
Love, what were you doing? Love says, I was giving him energy because I was playing and communicating with him, asking him to open my curtains and turn over the TV. No, 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 no. No, no, Love.
No, no. The metaphor of the vampire of don't invite them in. That's what that is
That's
all about.
right. That is right.
When you say, "Hey, is anybody out there? Michael the Archangel, you out there?" Some dark entity can come in and
That's right.
say, "Oh yeah, I'm Michael."
And it's so subtle that some people say that you shouldn't even put a mat outside your front door of your house that says welcome on
Oh,
it. in certain spiritual circles, they say that you should not do that because that's saying, hey, everybody's welcome, when in fact, no, we don't want everybody in our home. We don't want everybody just crossing that threshold. So there are some people that say that you have to be really careful, and for when you go to protect your home, that you should not have any kind of welcome sign on the front of it, unless it's a place of business or something of that nature, which is a public place. But for your own home, that you should not have a welcome mat out.
That's interesting. That's one piece that it's not in that book. I'm going to certainly pass that along to time. We ward our house though. We have iron on the windowsills. We have a iron skillet with salt with Michael the Archangel's sigil in it that we keep under our bed. That we refresh. We also we have iron on the four corners of our property, and I line it with salt once a year and do a ritual. So
it's okay, love. Don't worry about it. Don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. We get calls, can you fix this? Now, it's really hard to go in. I'll tell you, I don't know how we're doing on time, but I had someone from the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft, right, in Cleveland.
Okay, I doubt anybody knows who Buckland was, to be honest with you, on here. But if you want to mention very quickly.
Well, it's a very cool museum of witchcraft and magic, and has a lot of ties to the UK and people that they would know. But anyway, he called me up and he said, Joey, I think I got a case for you. And these people were mucking around and had to undo something. In trying to banish something, they wind up trapping it. And then someone from North Carolina said, can you talk to my friend and help her out? And she said, I was trying to keep them from coming in, and now they're locked in the house with me, and I can't leave the house. So, folks, you have to be very careful. And we're all somewhat naive because Rachel and I have encountered a lot, but we haven't encountered everything. So we never know when that new thing is going to come. So they will test you. They will test you. I just watched The Pope's Exorcist. We watched The Pope's Exorcist.
I want to watch it. I haven't.
It was very good.
I've seen little blurbs of it, but I haven't watched it yet.
You have to go carefully. Don't make assumptions. Ask questions, because when you ask questions, things get revealed.
Okay.
Yeah. And certainly don't invite them to come in and play, because they'll come in and play. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, it doesn't stop at pulling the curtains. It does not, love. It doesn't
No, or mucking with the television. Not at all.
All right. So I think that's it for Joey and I today. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Joey, did you have fun? I know I had fun.
Oh, yeah. I think I even a little more than the first time, because the first time you're always so nervous, and how are people going to receive it? And they received it very well, and you asked me back. So, yeah, this was terrific.
Yeah, all right. And remember, what's the name of the book again?
Oh, it's called Roommates from Beyond, How to Live.
And we are going to be giving it away. Yeah, the blue screen, a green screen is kind of, there we go, Roommates from Beyond. And also, Joey's show is going to be on tonight on Facebook and YouTube. It's called Into the Outer Realms, and it'll be on midnight in the UK, meaning 7 p.m. here in Eastern Daylight Time, because we're in Ohio, both of us. We're only one county apart from each other.
That's right. But sitting right next to each other through the miracle of this technology.
That's right.
Yeah, but you can find them all archived. Tonight is episode 166, believe it or not.
Woo! 166.
Getting old.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't keep track. I don't even keep track. I should keep track of this stuff. I know I've been with SBTV for how long now, Richard? 2 years? 3 years?
Wow, cool.
Yeah, something like that. 2 or 3 years. I don't know.
Nice.
But anyway, everybody, thank you. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being you. And I really, truly do mean that. Stay in there. Stay in the game. Do not give up on you. I'm not going to give up on you, so don't you go giving up on yourself either, okay? You are here, and you are here for a reason. Don't question it. Just ride the wave of life and go with it, okay? Do not give up. You are very, very much loved. Take care, everybody, and I will see you back at 2 weeks' time with my show providing readings. I'll be using either Lenormand cards and maybe a little bit of my palmistry as well. Okay, so everybody, Good night to you. Take care. And Joey, take care.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
and
you,
don't
Richard.
forget, tomorrow, 6 p.m., Debbie with Transcend Debbie. Debbie Romero will be on SBTV. Everybody take care. Bye-bye now.